The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, policies, or positions of Johnson County Community College.
JCCC is built by and for its students. This new speaker series celebrates students' voices and highlights the rich experiences they bring to our community. Each student speaker will share their story in conversation with a faculty or staff member of their choice. This series is a collaboration between the Department of Philosophy and Religion, the CoLab, Student Life, and the Honors Program. We are JCCC, Student Voices. Episode 1, Suraya.
Suraya is graduating from JCCC. She's studying accounting. She's very involved with Model UN. She's a student ambassador. She's a leader on campus. She was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, and she came to the U.S. as a refugee. Suraya tells this story with this kind of cheerfulness and confidence that I find to be incredible, given the hardships that she's gone through. She doesn't talk about it in that way, and I just find it's really inspiring. That story and hear about her experience coming here, her practice of Islam, and how Islam is practiced in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Suraya Shirzad. As Nasera said, I am from Afghanistan. I came here in 2021. So I've been here in the United States for almost around 4 years now. And first, I want to thank you for everyone who did a great job for organizing this event. And I'm so thankful for this. I think this is a great opportunity for students to share their stories and for all of us as a community to come close together and see what kind of people are with us. So yeah, that's a short introduction about me. Do you want me to go and talk about how I came to the United States?
What were the circumstances and how did that happen?
Yeah. So as maybe all of us or most of us know, in August 2021, Afghanistan was taken over by Taliban, which is a terrorist group that was active in Afghanistan, but only in some parts of it. But on August 2021, they took over all the regions in Afghanistan, and I was living in Kabul, which is the capital at that time. I was in a classroom and I was taking my final exam, actually. I think it was my biology exam, and I overheard the conversation between my teachers. They were talking about how our president ran away from our country the night before this happened, and they were discussing that Taliban had been seen around that city. And at that time, fear took over my body. I knew what kind of people Taliban are, although I never had I never seen them before. But at that time, I was super fearful, and especially about my education, because I knew Taliban are really against girls going to school and being educated. So what I did after that was running away to my sister's school and grabbing her. And after that, I went home and I discussed this with my parents. Oh, obviously, they already know before me. And so I was at home. My mom was there. All my siblings were there. Without my dad was not there yet. And so he called us to grab our passports and whatever we were, without anything else, no documents, nothing else, not even pictures of us. He told us to get ready to go to the airport because people were able to get out of Afghanistan by going to the airport. So that's what we did. We went to the airport and we went to I think it's the name of the airport is Ahmed Karzai. It's the only airport that we had at Kabul. So I went there and there was a big population of people there. I can say thousands of people came to run away from Afghanistan, and we were not the only people. And I saw Taliban there, I saw American military there, and they were all trying to get the situation under their control. And that was my first time interacting with an actual American. That was my first time talking to them in English. And it was incredible. It was an incredible experience, although it was really chaotic. But I talked to the American military at that time, and I was asking them what is happening. And my age at that time was only 15. I was only 15 years old, and my parents, my family were there, and everybody was scared. They didn't know what's going to happen next. So I talked to them, and they told us that they can take us out of there if we stay calm. And that's what we did. That's what most people did. But Taliban took over, and they took everybody out of the airport. So we had to come back to home. And we did this multiple times. We went to the airport. We were waiting there for a few hours. We spent nights there behind the doors of the airport and hoping for any foreigners open the door of the airport for us so we could get out of Afghanistan immediately. And so I remember that time my cousin was pregnant and she had Australian citizenship. She was in Afghanistan with us at that time. And so this time we tried to get into the airport with her. So we entered the airport, we entered the population that were behind doors of the airport with her. And we spent almost, I think, 12, 13 hours behind the doors waiting for Australian troops to open the door for us. And after that, I remember that I grabbed my brother's hand and my cousins was with us and we just entered the airport and my family, they could not come with us. So it was me and my brother and my cousin was pregnant at that time with her husband. We entered the airport and they took us to Australian troops. And they asked me for a documentation. They asked me for a visa. They asked me for citizenship. And I had none of that because our I just didn't have any citizenship for a foreign country. I was a citizen of Afghanistan. I didn't have a visa for a different country. And they denied me. They told me to go to a different country's camp. So we had different camps within the airport. So it was Australian camp, there was Germany's camp, Turkish camp, and also American camp. Some Australian military people, they took me to the Germany military and I talked to them in English and I told them that this is my situation. It was me and my brother only at that time. My brother is 12 years he was 11 years old at that time. So it was me and my brother. We went to the Germany troops and I talked to them about my situation. And they said, we cannot take you because you don't have a visa or a citizenship visa. And from there, I went to the American military. And they didn't give me a yes or no answer. They just told me to wait there. And there were people there. And so I waited inside their camp for almost 2 days. And the food that we were eating was the military food, the food that military people eat. And I was not used to that animal. It was so bad. I'm telling you. So we had no sleep for almost like 3-4 days. And it was just me and my brother. And we went through that. So the good thing was that we had passports at that time, me and my brother, Afghanistan's passport. That helped us a lot. I remember that they took us to a room where they asked us questions about like, who's your dad, who's your mom, and all these questions. And they gave us like a wristband, like I would say like a paper wristband, which was colored. And I really did not know what the process is, like where are we gonna go next and what's gonna happen to us. And there was a fear with me at that time because my mom was not there, my dad was not there, nobody was there. It was me and my brother, and I was the mom and dad for my brother. And I was really fearful because I didn't know what's gonna happen next. And I remember I called my mom at that time and I told her that this is the situation. Like you guys couldn't get in. I don't know when you guys can come, but I want to get out of the airport. I want to come with you guys. And my mom told me that, yeah, you have the option to come with us and stay here in Kabul, but you have to know that there would be no opportunity for you to go to school again. And you have the option to go with them. And wherever they take you, you have the right to go to school. And I chose to come here. I chose to come to United States and go to school again. So from there, they took us to Qatar, and we stayed in Qatar for almost 5-6 hours. And then from there, we went to a bus, and we waited for almost 24 hours in the bus. And then from there, we came to Washington, D.C. And from Washington, D.C., they took me to Wisconsin, which is Fort McCoy military base. And I spent almost 5 months there. And finally, from there, I went to Arizona where my uncle lives, and I lived with him for a year and a half. And I reunited with my family on April 2023. And I came here to see them for the first time after almost 2 or 3 years. So yeah, that's like a summary of what happened to me and how I get to the United States.
It's an incredible story, and you tell it so calmly. I think that would be very, very hard, especially at the age of 15. Taking your brother, taking care of your brother who was only 11. Suraya, one big question that came up in my mind as we're telling that story is like, your English is so good. Like, did you study English a lot?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And although I do think that sometimes my English is not Englishing. It's not really good. I forget words a lot of the time. But I'm thankful for my mom's effort for this because she is an overachiever. And when I was 9, I think, as far as I remember, I was linked to English courses, and she sent me English courses outside school. So I was learning English from very young age, and I was fluent by the time I came to the United States.
So, Suraya, like, tell us about like your experience coming to the U.S. Like, was it culture shock? Were there things that surprised you?
Definitely. There were a lot of things that did surprise me. And The good thing was that when I entered the US, I went to Wisconsin like directly. So in the Wisconsin camp, it was mostly Afghan people. Like the only employees were Americans, or there were American military there, but everybody who was there was Afghan. So I didn't experience that big of a culture shock there, but as soon as I went to Arizona, we were spent in a hotel. We were in a hotel for almost 5 months. So in the hotel, I did experience that culture shock, and I did experience a really severe depression there because I was not going to school. I did not have any activity to do. I was not having any interaction with anybody in the hotel. So it was just me and my brother. And I can say that I did feel a culture shock there. Like the culture of shopping here is different. The culture of ordering a food is so different. And I had to overcome all of those. I think I have a good understanding of the cultures here now. But at that time, it was a big culture shock for me.
I can imagine. I would like to know about a couple of other things. One is you mentioned that you were given this choice between staying with your parents or getting an education. And you were told, like, under the Taliban, you will not be able to get an education, right? So could you just say more about that? I mean, you chose to take this risk and just come here for the sake of education. Tell me about, like, what is life like now under the Taliban?
A lot of time when I think about that, I get really upset because we in the United States, a lot of people take education as granted, which shouldn't be that way. I feel an obligation to educate myself about what's going on in the world and just in general, taking every opportunity that comes to me because I was in a situation where I didn't have any opportunity, my opportunities were so limited. Right now, in Afghanistan, women do not have the right to go to school after 6th grade. So after the 6th grade, they have to stay at home. They don't have the opportunity to go to work. They don't have the opportunity to go to school. And Taliban are imposing more and more stupid laws on them. And one of the laws that I recently was aware of is they're not allowed to talk to women outside of the house. Like talking to men was obviously not allowed even before that, but they are not allowed to talk to other women now outside of the home. They are not allowed to go to parks. They're not allowed to laugh loudly in a public. Like I just cannot imagine living that way. Like that's really far from my imagination. I don't know how Afghan women are doing that, but they're going through that right now.
And Suraya, you have told me about like a couple of ways that people can help Afghan women. I know you're interested in doing a project which you're kind of still thinking about and developing to help Afghan women in that situation. Are there organizations that people can look into helping or supporting?
So when I heard this law that denied the right for Afghan girls to go to medical school so they cannot become nurses and doctors anymore, I felt this obligation to go and look out for ways that I can help them out. And my economic teacher, Daniel Ovens, and also my world religion professor, Sarah Aptilon, they helped me a lot to find ways. And I did some research and found some organizations that help out Afghan women right now. One of them is the U.S. Afghan Women Council, which does a lot of projects for Afghan women. And one of them that I'm involved with is basically a team of almost 10 people. And what they do is they have a website that sells the handmade stuff from Afghan women on the website. So I'm doing volunteering with them. So I help them out with the website, I help them out with the sales, and I do try to market for them as well. That's one way that helps them out. But there are a lot of websites that you can teach Afghan women, whether it's English, whether it's a subject that you're passionate about, that can be helpful for them. Other ways is donating money. There are tons of websites that you can donate money to them. So yeah, those are the ways that we can help them out. I personally wanted to directly be with them and, just motivate them for what they're doing. And I think that the volunteering that I'm doing with that organization is really helping me to do that. But if you guys are interested in any, like finding those websites, I can give you my email and you can contact me and I can send you the website, the links, whatever that you're interested in. But there are ways to help them out. We just have to look for that.
Thank you. So they have access to online resources to some degree.
They do have it. The only problem is that access to internet is really expensive in Afghanistan. They can have access, but they need that financial support to do that.
So thank you for that. We'll maybe post something too about whatever resources, other things you might want to share with people. And I think when you're talking about that, I was also thinking about another kind of oppression that your family faced in Afghanistan, which is being part of the Hazara people. So Soraya's family belongs to a minority group in Afghanistan called the Hazara. And there's actually a large Hazara community here in Kansas City. But in Afghanistan, they have been really treated terribly and oppressed violently. Tell us about that. And maybe connected to that, what Islam looks like in Afghanistan. What does that have to do with like Sunni and Shia Islam and your own practice of Islam?
99.99% of Afghan people practice Islam. So in Afghanistan, everybody is basically Muslim, except for a few minorities that I think we have Buddhist people and also Sikh people, but they cannot speak up about their religion because they can be killed for that. And I am Shia Hazara. Shia is the sect of my religion, and Hazara is the ethnic group that I'm from. In Afghanistan, we have different ethnic group. Majority of them is Pashtun, which is almost 50% of the Afghanistan population. And Hazara people, I think, is around 6 to 7% of the population. So Hazara people, you can identify them by their facial, what do you call that? Facial features. Yes, thank you. Facial features. So you might notice that I kind of look like Asian, like how do you say it? I have Korean eyes. So that is a feature that we can find in Hazara people. And that's how you can tell the difference between Pashtun and Hazara in Afghanistan. And also, we have been a minority group that have been discriminated against for generations. And that one reason behind that is because the country was ruled by Pashtuns, which is a majority group forever. Since there was like kings, they were Pashtun. And then when it became a republican, the presidents were also Pashtun. So historically, we have been discriminated against, and we have even experienced a genocide that I think we do not talk about that a lot, and a lot of people are not informed about that. There was a genocide against Hazara people almost 1 century ago. And that discrimination is still going on, whether it's just within the society or even the Taliban was targeting Hazara people and Hazara community in Kabul. We have a big community in Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, and a lot of the explosions that were being done, bombings and explosions, they were targeting my ethnic group, specifically Hazara people. I remember the education centers that they bombed, the hospital that they bombed, the university that they bombed. The majority of people attending to those centers were Hazara people. I could say around 90% of them were Hazaras. So we have been historically discriminated and even killed because of our facial features and our religion experiences and practices, which I think a lot of people in the world don't talk about this, and they don't have a lot of information about this and how it's going on. So I was feeling obligated to bring this up and talk about this as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you could share that with us. And this is an example of a conflict between Sunni and Shia Islam. So originally, like, you speak Dari, right?
Yes.
It's your native language, which is a dialect of Persian. And so you, like, Hazara are Shia Muslim and the Taliban is Sunni, right? This is one example of Sunni-Shia conflict, of which there are many throughout the Middle East. But anyway, it doesn't seem like it's based on anything deeper than I don't know. I guess I would just ask to follow up, like, how did this come about? Or have Hazara always been seen as outsiders? Have there been times of peace also?
I don't know the history behind that and when or where did it start, but I think it has been Aryans, which are Pashtun people, came into the Afghanistan, and we believe that Hazaras are the Indians in Afghanistan. So we have been there forever, and Aryans, which are Pashtun and some other groups, they entered Afghanistan, and I think that's when it started, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, that's what I believe happened when they entered Afghanistan.
Thank you. Yeah. So I kind of want to open it up to questions from people. I just know that Soraya's story for me was very eye-opening. I wasn't really aware of these different layers of discrimination and the degree to which her family suffered discrimination in Afghanistan. And I'm sure you still have family there that are still facing that.
My grandma is still there. My aunt is still there. We have close family members that are still in Afghanistan. And I remember my cousin,
who is younger than my younger sister. She is only 14. She had to get married because she had no other options, and she didn't have anything else to do. Like, she didn't have the option to go to school. She didn't have the option to go to work. And the only thing that was left for her was to get married. And she got married at the age of 14, and she has a baby now at the age of 16. And after the Taliban banned school for girls, the early marriages have increased significantly. The suicide rate in Afghanistan among women have increased significantly. So those are the biggest impacts that the education ban has imposed on girls.
Thank you for sharing that. I think I would just like to ask you one last question before we open it up for questions. And that is, could you tell us a little bit about your practice of Islam, I know we just had the holiday of Eid. Was that yesterday for your family?
Yeah, it was
And it was the end of Ramadan. Maybe tell us about Ramadan and Eid and your practice of Islam, and then, sort of go from there to open up the conversation.
Thank you. So I am Muslim, and Muslims have a big celebration, which is Eid. It happens twice a year. One of them is right after fasting for 30 days. So we fast for 30 days from sunshine to sundown, sun rays to sundown, which was almost around 14 to 16 hours this month, previous month. And after that, we have a big celebration, which is called Eid, and it's for 3 days. For my family, it started yesterday. So yesterday we had Eid, and I was wearing fancy clothes. That's what we do when it's Eid. So yeah, that's my practice of Islam started as soon as I was born, because basically that's how it happens in Islamic countries. So I started practicing Islam since I was born, and I started praying, which is 5 times a day, like 5 times prayers, when at the age of 9, and also fasting at the age of 9. I think that's it. Do you want anything else to add on that?
I just remember, when you were talking, I remember that in our class last year, I think there were several Muslim students and one other student from the Hazara community, but I remember asking you guys, like, what do you most love about Islam? Or someone asked you, what do you most love about Islam? And everybody said prayer. That was like, praying 5 times a day was like deeply part of life, just who you are. And I don't know, you said that too.
Yeah, I said that. So we pray 5 times a day. It's one in the morning, one exactly like around lunchtime, one around like 4 o'clock. One of them is around dinner time, which is 8 p.m. And then another one is around like 11 p.m. Yeah, that is what I most like about practicing Islam, is because it brings me discipline. Like waking up at 5 a.m. to remember my God is a big part of my religion. And I think that it brings me joy and that discipline, and calms me down. When I pray and when I talk to my God, I stay calm, and I feel really calm, and I talk to him about whatever happened to me on the day. And it just brings me joy and peace when I do that.
Thank you for sharing that. So I think I would like to just open this conversation up to people who are with us. Questions for Suraya?
It's really different. I can say I started going to school in Arizona. And so what happened to me is that I started going to school in 9th grade while I was in 11th grade in Afghanistan. But I was able to complete all my credits within a year and a half and graduate at 10th grade. In 9th grade, it was fun, but I would also say it was scary, because I was scared to not understand what the teacher is saying. And that was happening to me almost for like a month, because in math class, I never learned math science in English. Like, I was learning them in Dari, in my language. And that was really stressing for me, because whatever the teacher was saying, I was translating that immediately and trying to understand what he's saying, which is super difficult in math classes. Or in history classes, I was doing the same thing. But I think I got used to it super quickly. Like, after a month, I was understanding them really well. And I don't have any struggles with that right now, except for some words that I forget sometimes, or I have to search up the words when I'm writing an essay. But yeah, at that time, and also using electronics in the school, that was not in Afghanistan. That was not common in Afghanistan. I learned how to use a laptop for my schoolwork here. And I can say that a lot of people do take school system here in granted, but we have a great school system, public school system, which a lot of people don't have the opportunity to have that. We have best teachers here, and I'm super grateful to have the opportunity to be here and study here in the United States. That's great.
Me too appreciate what we have here, truly, to hear your story. Thank you.
Whenever someone asks me that question, I can say that there is not a big difference between those two, because I don't see a big difference between those two. I don't even see a big difference between Christianity and Islam. But to answer that is that after our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, died, some group of Muslims believe that the leadership of Islam was delivered to his grandchildren, Ali, Hussein, and Hassan, which Shias believe that way. And another group of Muslims believe that no, it was delivered to his friends, which are Omar, Abu Bakr, Uthman, and Ali. So Shias believe that it was the grandchildren and children of Muhammad, while Sunnis believe that it was his friends. So I think that that's one of the biggest significance, but there are some small ones of like the way that we pray. But I always say that I don't see a big difference there because we pray to the same God, we have the same prophet, and there are a lot more similarities than there are differences.
That's what's so sad and ironic about these kinds of conflicts, that it's often political, not based on deep religious differences at all, but there was that disagreement over succession.
So it took me a while to understand the people who are saying there is discrimination in United States, because in Afghanistan, we are talking about it in a very big viewpoint. So we are talking about not killing people because they're Shia. We are talking about not sexually abusing women in Afghanistan. While here in the United States, we are talking about really small matters, which I think we shouldn't call them small matters because they can be big. And I think that any kind of discrimination is wrong and shouldn't be happening. But compared to what was happening in Afghanistan, they're really minor. And a lot of people do talk about like how they don't feel safe when they're walking outside at night, which I don't feel that way because I experienced even worse than that. I saw a bullet like going through my eyes, like right here. So I have experienced so much worse than that, and I think that what we have here is really great. We can do better. I think we should keep working hard to eliminate discrimination and injustice as much as we can. But obviously, injustice in Afghanistan is so much worse than here in the United States, and we have to eliminate any kind of discrimination in any part of the world. So Taliban entered Afghanistan on May 15, 2021, if I'm not wrong. And I got out of Afghanistan on May 21st or 22nd. So it took me that many days to get out of Afghanistan, and I was behind the airport doors for that long time, yeah. Yeah. It is really difficult to explain what kind of situation I was in because the airport is huge, obviously, and there were multiple doors to it. So I was in multiple doors in multiple days. So one day I was in one of the doors where it was under the Taliban. So Taliban had the control of that door, and they were entering people into the airport. And it was really bad because they were firing the whole time. They were not shooting at people. They were just firing at the sky, but they keep doing that, and it was scaring a lot of people. And then another day, I was behind another wall, it wasn't specifically a door, but it was a wall. There was no security there. People wouldn't kick us out, but they wouldn't let us inside. That was the problem, that we couldn't get into the airport because some parts of the airport was under the control of Taliban. Some of them were under the control of like American troops or Australian troops. So that was a difficulty at that time. Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. I've never thought of that. And even I sometimes do get fascinated about how brave I was at that time. Like I was only 15 years old and I had the responsibility of an 11 years old boy, and it was difficult. And what I would say is that you got this, girl. Like you got this. You did great. So culturally in Afghanistan, we consume a lot of wheat and rice. So a meal would be for us would be rice with beans, for example, or rice with chicken, something like that. But when I entered the airport, they were like, the food that they consume is packed food. It tastes horrible. It's so bad. And it even looks bad. I don't remember exactly, but I remember that they had beans that were like mush, I have never seen beans like that. And I had to eat them because I had no other option. And I think they had some chicken, which was dried chicken. It had no taste. It was so bad. But there was there was a lot of options, but none of them would taste good. And what we would eat was chips. So they had some chips as well. I would just eat chips because nothing else was tasting good. Yes, it was. And I also remember there was like a heating pad that we could put water in and like make it hot, and it would taste nothing like water. It was horrible, so bad. I can't, like, I don't know how they eat it, how military people eat it every day.
What other questions do people have?
I often talk about this with my dad, and I tell him that it's impossible to keep the cultures of two countries, all the cultures of two countries. So in my country, the responsibility of a woman is to stay at home, raise children, cook, clean, and all those things. In here, when you come to United States, if only my dad is working, we cannot pay for the expenses. So I have to help him out with the financial needs of the family. And I do talk about this a lot with my dad. And I tell him that if I'm working outside of the home, it is impossible for me to do the job inside the home all the time. So the gender rules have mixed up a lot since we came to United States, because we can't keep the gender norms in Afghanistan while we are here in the United States. It's impossible to live with that. And so I do think that there are some cultural traditions that we have to set aside and keep what's important, keep what's most important. And about religious practice, I don't know. I wouldn't say that I'm too religious. I am religious to some extent. Um, but since I came to United States, especially when I was in the camp, it was really difficult to find a community because there was no mosque in the camp. I was not going to the mosque, while I used to go to mosque really frequently in Afghanistan. Or even here, we have a mosque that is 30 minutes away, and it's really hard to go to the mosque really often. Comparing that to Afghanistan, we had a mosque that was 2 minutes walking from my home in Afghanistan, and we didn't have any difficulty getting there. So I think it is a little more difficult to practice and keep practicing Islam as often as I used to, but still I do what's most important to me, and even traditional-wise, I practice the tradition that's most important to me and to my family. Yeah. Since I left Afghanistan, I was telling anybody that I could think help me out. I was telling them that my parents are not here and we need them. But when I went to Washington, D.C., they got our documentation. They submitted to, I think, their system or something. And then from there, it wasn't just me and him. It was tons of other Afghan people, Afghan refugees together. So we were all together. And they flew us to Wisconsin from there. And in the Wisconsin camp, we were with families, Afghan families. And from there, they asked us whether we want to stay with our foster parents, like what do we want to do, or do we have any relatives that we could live with. And my uncle was living in Arizona at that time, so I told him about my uncle, and that's how we went to him and we lived with him. I do talk to them, yeah, my grandma. I do talk to them frequently. It's a hard question. I really don't know how they do that either. I've never asked the question from them, but I think their hope is that one day the Taliban regime would be overthrown and they have the opportunity to go to school again. That's the only hope that I can imagine they have to stay alive. But a lot of girls have lost the hope already, and that's why a lot of girls are doing suicide or getting married so early, because they have no other options. I remember when I was in Qatar airport, a lot of families were saying that they are not willing to go to United States because US people have a lot of gangs. That was the only thing they were talking about. And I was willing to come to United States, then go back to Afghanistan, and I had no problems with it. But that is an imagination that America is not safe. There is a lot of gangs. People use a lot of gangs all the time. But it's safer than Afghanistan. And I can say that I had an amazing experience with all the Americans that I've met. I have never had a bad experience with any of them. They have never told me something because I'm Muslim, because I'm covering my hair. They've never told me something because I'm different from them. And I really appreciate that, because I was discriminated against in my own country because of my differences, and I have not experienced that here. Despite of some things that people were telling me about America in Afghanistan, I think that some of them are true, but America is a great country. Thank you. So as soon as Trump got elected, I did not have a green card. I was just an asylee, and so were my family. So I was really scared because I heard some rumors that even when you have asylum, even when you have a legal status here, you can be deported. So I was really scared about that for a while until my green card came. And I think as soon as he got elected as well, there was a lot of fear at that time. I don't feel that right now. I don't think there is as much fear right now. But all of my family got their green card really soon after that, and so am I. So I'm not really concerned about myself, but I am concerned about some other people because we had some Afghan families who came to United States illegally through Brazil and Mexico. So I'm kind of scared for them and I have fear for them, but I think my family's safe for now. Any other questions? Yeah. That's a good one. I love Indian foods. We don't have an Afghan restaurant here, which I think is really unfortunate because we have amazing food. And if you ever go to an Afghan restaurant, eat mantu, which is Afghan dumpling. It's the best. So my favorite restaurant, I would say, is Rajadhani, which is an Indian restaurant. But I always have to tell them that I cannot eat that spicy. Bring the spice lower. But I love their food. Yeah, that's a good restaurant. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I am involved in multiple organizations. So I'm an honors student, and I work in a student life as student life ambassador, where I'm also chair for Star and Dart team, a sexual assault resource team, and drug and alcohol resource team. I'm also in Model UN Club. I compete in Model UN, and I also am a secretary there. I'm in the student senate, and I have nominated myself to become a secretary in the Student Senate for next semester. I'm also active in International Club. So yeah, those are the organizations that I'm active in on campus. Yeah, when there is Eid, before the Eid night, we girls come together in a house and they do each other's hands. That's what we used to do in Afghanistan, but here we try to do it, but everybody has different schedules. So it was me and my sister, my mom, we came together and did henna on each other's hands. Thank you. Sorry, say it again. Yeah, my clothes is cultural Afghan clothes. It's not really too much, but we have some Afghan clothes that are really designy. This is really simple and really formal, but also my jewelry is also from Afghanistan. They're traditional jewelries. Yeah. Sorry, say it again. A meaning? I don't think so. This specifically is not handmade, but a lot of Afghan clothes, they are handmade. And I have multiple of them, but they were too much to wear for today, so I didn't wear them. But they were oftentimes handmade, and it takes women to make them. It takes months for women to make them. And so it has a very high value to them and also to me when I buy them, but they're really expensive. They're really expensive when they're handmade.
Can you tell us kind of what your plans are? Like, what do you want to do from here after you leave JCCC?
Yeah, it took me forever to find that plan because in Afghanistan, there was really limited option that either I'm becoming an engineer, a doctor, a nurse. But here we have nurse assistant, we have doctor assistant, we have so many occupations that it's really hard to choose one from. And when I came to JCC, I wanted to become a doctor. So I took a biology class and I hated it. So I had to change it to business. So now I am completing my liberal arts here. And then after that, I'm planning to transfer to UMKC to complete my bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis on either data analytics or accounting. And that's my hope. And after that, I'm planning to go to law school and become a lawyer. We have an amazing honor student organization here because that's how I got connected to all these resources on campus. We have an amazing student resource center that I always go to when I have math questions, which I think a lot of universities don't have that for students. That's amazing. The student life, the job that I have right now, I have amazing manager, my supervisor, Moramel. She is the best. She supports me really good. Whenever I have problem, I go to her. The Academic Resource Center, I talked about already. The Career Development Center, I think that's the name of it. I have used it multiple times whenever I have interview for my jobs. It's amazing. It's an amazing resource for us. The counseling is an amazing resource center. CSI, get involved. I find my clubs, activities, and the events that are going on. We have amazing resources here. So I think that's really great about JCCC because they support students really well. And I've been supported. And whenever I had problem, I knew where to go. Or even if I didn't, I knew who to talk to find that place. About frictions, I don't find a lot of problems, but one of the things that I could talk about is we have different programs and different students from different backgrounds here. And oftentimes, the people who are involved are from the same background. There are students who come here full-time, and they're super involved. They're super involved on campus. They have classes in person, and they come and get involved. And I have not seen a lot of people from different other programs like culinary, the people who are trying to become mechanics. I don't see them really involved on campus, and I think we could improve that, and we could bring students more closer together from different backgrounds. So yeah, that's one of the problems, but we have an amazing campus. I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you so much for being here, everyone. We'll hang out for a few minutes after this. If you wouldn't mind, I believe there's a sign-up sheet over there. If you could sign your name just so we know you were here, and maybe put your email if you're interested in hearing more about what Suraya is going to be doing in the future with her project for Afghan women.
Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for the amazing questions. I'm super happy that I had the opportunity to share my story.
This podcast was recorded live on April 1st, 2025. Interview conducted by Dr. Sarah Aptilon, Associate Professor of Religious Studies at Johnson County Community College. Production by the CoLab at JCCC. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, policies, or positions of Johnson County Community College.